little time to talk about leadership. And the argument I'm making is that there is a direct relationship between Africa's unenviable place on the development trajectory and the type of leadership prevalent on the continent. And here leadership speaks to the ability to motivate, to exact the best from others. It is about mobilization of people and materials in the right mix in the accomplishment of organizational goals at minimal cost. Its core elements are visioning, courage, knowledge, passion, selflessness, and integrity. If any of these is lacking, hardly will you be able to have leadership in the right mix. Leadership imparts substantially the fortunes of organizations, making it the most important variable in organization success. And this includes the state, which marks the ordinary layers of leadership which exist in all settings and at all levels. And the good of society is ultimately predicated upon how each of the several leaders, technically every one of us, in a collective, applies themselves to the task of leadership. I think this bears repetition, that generally when we talk of leadership, there is a tendency to look at leadership in terms of those who occupy, to find out who is the vice chancellor, to find out who is the president, who is the governor, who is the minister. Many people lose sight of the fact that leadership exists in all strata of society. And there is no person that does not have the opportunity to exercise leadership, as the case may be, that has been ceded to you. As long as we continue to see leadership in that distant dimension, we will continue to have challenges rearranging the structures of the continent of Africa to make it, or to make them more productive. In spite of the evidence of good governance and credible efforts at engendering economic development in a few countries on the African continent, the continent's development situation remains very precarious. Any robust application of the nature of colonialism, which ravaged the African continent for some 100 years, preceded by 400 years of slave trade, will come to the conclusion that it remains, these twin agencies, slave trade and colonialism, remain a critical variable in Africa's post-colonial experience. And we are making these points not to undercast the role that current generations or pre-colonial generations of Africans have made in the very unfortunate, but it is to make the point and to draw attention to the fact that when a people is subjected to these long years of despoilation, the most intensive level of exploitation that any person, any people have seen in history, the most intensive level of abuse that has ever been witnessed in history, it is not unimaginable that the era following these experiences will largely be shaped by them. There is no amount of frustration with the present that can justify a denial of the structural impact of the trade in captives and colonialism, both of which lasted for 500 years, in the structure of the post-colonial African state and society. George Ayite, in the 1992 study, made the point that the single-minded commitment of African leaders to rent-seeking is the basis of the non-performance of the continent. McLaughlin work, after a study of the Nigerian political economy, they came to the conclusion that holding office are the primary motivation of politics, that of deploying state